Understanding geysers and hot springs. Geysers, hot springs, fumaroles, and other hydrothermal features have fascinated humans since before the dawn of history. Numerous classical myths and legends were inspired by the haunting landscape of the Phlegrean Fields near Naples, Italy. Vents in Solfatara volcano's crater emit gaseous vapors, and the air is permeated with the odor of sulfur. Ancient Romans believed this region was the gateway to an underworld ruled by the god Pluto. In other parts of the Roman world, hot springs attracted settlement, and towns developed where the waters were considered curative. At Hamat Gader, on the west bank of the Jordan River, hot, sulfur-laden waters in the Roman baths have provided therapy for 2,000 years. Hot springs, geysers, and other hydrothermal features occur where hot water reaches the Earth's surface through natural openings in the ground. The heat which powers these hydrothermal activities comes from underground bodies of magma or molten rock. Water, which is heated through contact with magma, rises to the surface through cracks or fissures. Magma deposits sufficiently close to the Earth's surface to produce hydrothermal features are usually found in regions with a geologically recent history of volcanic activity. The Phlegrean Fields, for example, are located only a short distance from Vesuvius, the volcano that destroyed the Roman city of Pompeii in the famous eruption of 79 AD. Active volcanic regions such as the Pacific Northwest's Cascade Mountains, Mexico's Transvolcanic Belt, and the Andes Mountains of western South America are noted for their many hot springs and fumaroles. At Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming, which has the world's largest concentration of hydrothermal activity, a large chamber of molten magma lies less than a mile underground. Hot springs are the world's most common hydrothermal features. A hot spring is defined as an upwelling of groundwater with a temperature warmer than that of the human body. Temperatures of hot springs range from comfortably warm to very hot. Springs with temperatures above the average annual air temperature, but no higher than human body temperature, are called warm springs. Although some hot springs are literally boiling hot, bubbles that look like boiling water are often seen in springs with temperatures far below the boiling point of water. These bubbles are caused by gases rising from the heated water below ground. Some hot springs pour out water continuously. Others have an intermittent flow. In addition to being the most common hydrothermal features, warm and hot springs are the most widely distributed and are found in many parts of the world. Fumaroles are vents in the Earth's surface that emit only steam. They can be thought of as a modified type of hot spring with such a limited water supply that the source of underground heat converts all the available water to steam before it reaches the surface. Fumaroles are common in regions of very recent volcanic activity, such as Lassen Volcanic National Park, California, and the slopes of Mexico's Mount Paricutin. A mud pot, or hot mud cauldron, occurs when a spring vent has too little water to flush out sediments. As seen here at Yellowstone's fountain paint pots, a bubbling action takes place as steam rises through muddy groundwater. The colorful sediments come from local rocks that have been dissolved into clays. A geyser is a specialized type of intermittent hot spring. Hot water and steam issue sporadically from a geyser in the form of a temporary ejection that is called an eruption. Many geysers look like ordinary hot springs, except when they are erupting. Because geysers exist only under very special conditions, they are found in only a few places. Approximately 60% of the world's geysers are located in Yellowstone National Park. Most of the others are concentrated in the geyser fields of Chile, Iceland, New Zealand, and Kamchatka, Siberia. During a geyser's eruption, hot water and steam are spouted upward for a considerable distance. Some eruptions are of very modest height. Others are much more impressive. Yellowstone's Old Faithful, for example, usually sends a fountain of water 100 feet or more into the air. The steam cloud rises much higher than the column of ejected hot water and is especially noticeable in the cold air of winter. After an eruption, the geyser gradually subsides into a state of apparent low activity, perhaps marked by a little steam. A new eruption cycle begins as superheated water seeps into partially emptied underground chambers that are connected by narrow shafts. Constrictions in the geyser's underground plumbing prevent the superheated water from immediately rising and boiling. This increases pressure on water in the lower parts of the chambers. Surges of steam can be seen on the surface as some of the water heating in the chambers vaporizes and pushes to the surface. Shortly before the start of a major eruption, a few spurts of water may be pushed from the vent. This release of water lowers the pressure and allows more of the hot water to flash into vapor. As the expanding vapor blasts out of the chamber, it drives a large body of hot water with it as the main eruption begins. After the eruption subsides, the near-empty chamber begins to fill again as the cycle is repeated. A few geysers have highly regular eruption cycles. Old Faithful, for example, currently erupts about every 70 minutes. When this famous geyser was first timed by scientists more than a century ago, it maintained an average interval of 65 minutes between eruptions. In the early 1980s, a series of earthquakes on the Yellowstone Plateau affected the geyser's internal plumbing, causing it to become somewhat more erratic. Park rangers can still predict the next eruption, give or take about 10 minutes. This is done by timing the previous eruption. Generally, the smaller and shorter the eruption, the sooner the next one will take place. By the same token, the longer and higher an eruption, the longer the wait until another occurrence. Most geysers erupt irregularly. Some spew forth hot water every few hours or days, and some are inactive for years between eruptions. Geysers may respond to abrupt changes in surface conditions. Those in the extensive field of El Tapio, located at 14,000 feet in the Chilean Andes, erupt most frequently as dawn light creeps over the summits, bringing warmth to this high basin. Hot water rising from underground contains large amounts of dissolved minerals. As the water reaches the surface and cools, some of these dissolved minerals are precipitated out to form distinctive deposits. These deposits take many forms, depending upon the type of minerals dissolved in the water and the nature of the terrain where the vent opens onto the Earth's surface. A cone or dome may build up where a spring or geyser emerges on a flat land surface. The curious Liberty Cap at Mammoth Hot Springs in Yellowstone National Park was created by a spring that eventually built its dome so high that the hot water could no longer rise up through the dome and spill out. Alternatively, springs that open on level ground may form basins that are coated with mineral deposits. Terraces sometimes develop if the spring opens on sloping ground, as at Mammoth Hot Springs in Yellowstone National Park. The large terraces at Mammoth Hot Springs are built of travertine. Travertine is a calcite deposit that forms when the water in hot springs contains extensive amounts of easily dissolved limestone. It is actually a form of limestone that has been dissolved, then redeposited. The calcium carbonate, of which the limestone is composed, dissolves when carbon dioxide gas from hot volcanic rocks bubbles up through groundwater. It precipitates out as travertine when the water reaches the surface and cools. Because the water cools most rapidly at the edge of the terraces, the deposits grow more quickly there than in the center of the pool. Newly deposited travertine is pure white. Colors result from pigments in bacteria and algae that thrive in hot water. Old terraces turn gray when the springs that created them dry up. Dead trees and gray travertine indicate an area where a new spring burst forth, then stopped flowing. As the springs have shifted over the years, the terraces at Mammoth Hot Springs have grown to an enormous size. The shifting springs yield about 500 gallons of water per minute. An estimated 2 tons of limestone is brought to the surface each day to continue building a deposit that is already hundreds of feet thick. Sinter, which is a chemically formed sedimentary rock composed mainly of silica, is deposited in regions where silica-rich volcanic rocks known as rhyolite are abundant. Because sinter precipitates out of solution below ground as well as above, it tends to coat underground passages with a moderately watertight seal, thus creating conditions especially favorable for the development of geysers. Most of the world's geyser fields are found in areas where rhyolitic rock is extremely abundant. Sinter is also known as geyserite because it often forms dome-type deposits around geysers. A nozzle geyser typically erupts from a small opening in a large depositional cone. Other geysers erupt from pools of water. Although these geysers may eject substantial quantities of water and steam into the air, they rarely produce marked depositional features. Tufa, a porous deposit of calcium carbonate, is often deposited by underwater hot springs. Numerous tufa deposits were revealed as water levels dropped in California's Mono Lake. The bottoms and sides of hot springs are often covered with brilliant colors derived from minerals and algae. The most common colors are shades of green and yellowish tones, ranging to orange. Colorful rocks found in such places as the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone River indicate areas where hydrothermal alteration of rock materials has occurred. This happens as warmed waters circulating underground react with chemicals in the rocks. The altered rocks were revealed by erosion as the Yellowstone River cut its dramatic canyon. The best place on Earth to study hydrothermal phenomena is Yellowstone National Park. No other place has so many remarkable features in such close proximity. Yellowstone boasts about 250 geysers, more than 3,000 hot springs, and approximately 7,000 other hydrothermal features, including steaming fumaroles and bubbling mud cauldrons. The Yellowstone area is a broad plateau at a high elevation in the central Rocky Mountains. The plateau surface is composed almost entirely of volcanic rocks and is underlaid by a large magma chamber. This heat source provides the most important of the conditions necessary for the development of hydrothermal features. A second requirement is an adequate supply of water to seep downward, be heated, and subsequently rise to the surface as hot water and steam. Yellowstone's deep winter snowpack and usually abundant summer rains meet this requirement. Third, there must be cracks or breaks in surface materials so that the heated water can move up and down with ease. Yellowstone has a very unstable crustal surface and is subject to faulting and earthquakes as well as volcanic activity. In order for geysers to develop, the cracks and fissures that make up the underground plumbing system must be reasonably watertight and capable of holding a large volume of superheated water. The park's abundant rhyolitic rocks provide a source for the center that coats the geyser's plumbing systems. As is evident at Yellowstone, geysers and other geothermal features have a fascination that draws crowds. Old Faithful's eruptions are witnessed by millions of tourists each year. Even in such remote places as the El Tapio geyser field high in the Andes Mountains of northern Chile, the potential of geysers as a profitable tourist attraction is evident. Hot springs have been considered therapeutic for thousands of years. Today's thermal retreats are often called spas, after the town of Spa, Belgium. Here, Europeans have sought relaxation and increased well-being since at least the 16th century. Spa's current clientele tends to be solidly middle class, although the town's fame resulted from the use of its mineral waters by such 16th century notables as Henry III of France. One of the best-known thermal resorts in the United States, Hot Springs, Arkansas, forms the nucleus for a national park, established in 1921. Here, nearly 50 hot springs pour forth approximately 1 million gallons of mineral-rich water per day from the southwestern margins of Hot Springs Mountain. Rows of historic bathhouse hotels along Hot Springs Main Street attest to the community's long-standing reputation as a recreational and curative spa. Tapping the Earth's internal heat for geothermal energy was pioneered at Larderello in Italy's Tuscan region. Modern cooling towers mark the site where natural steam was used to produce borax as early as the 1820s. These natural steam vents were first harnessed to generate electric power at Larderello in 1913. Thermoelectric power output increased dramatically in the years following World War II. In addition to Italy, geothermal energy has been further developed at suitable sites in such diverse places as California, New Zealand, and Iceland. This well, sunk in a thermal region near the Salton Sea in California, taps steam that can be piped to a powerhouse to run a generator. Although geothermal energy is relatively clean and non-polluting, it does have some negative environmental impacts. At El Tapio, Chile, as well as in the New Zealand geyser fields, tapping geothermal power has been accompanied by a reduction in the activity of nearby geysers. Some areas where magma lies close to the ground surface may be suitable for such developments, but geothermal plants outside the national park in the Yellowstone region could endanger the park's priceless heritage. Because geysers are such rare and spectacular features, every effort should be made to protect those that remain.